Hey, welcome everyone to E2 Connect, Elder to Elder Conversations. And today we're talking about equipping elders. And not only here, but way over there.
Hey everyone, welcome to the E2 Effective Elders podcast. Visit us at e2elders.org and please share this good word with others.
Hey everybody, welcome back to E2 Connect, and this is our conversation of elder to elder, and we thank CDF Capital for their great investment in this partnership with E2. It's because of their belief in leadership that E2 does what it does. So thanks, CDF Capital. And I want to thank Kris Howell for being with us today. Kris is a pastor friend, but also our paths crossed years ago in a seminary classroom where I had the privilege of having Kris as a student. Today, he's the lead minister of Berea Christian Church on the west side of the state of Indiana in Brazil, Indiana. Kris, thanks for taking time today to be with us.
Hey, not a problem. And I actually met you before then. You did a morning Bible study at a CIY conference in Holland, Michigan years ago. And I had a group of high school students there. Would have been about 2007, maybe. Something
that goes
like that.
Way back.
My wife and I went in in the mornings because very few students came, but we were there to hear your presentation, and we loved it. And I began following you at that point. So,
well, when I appreciate that, I didn't realize that our path went all the way back to Holland, Michigan CIY days. That's incredible. Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about your ministry journey, but also about your ministry there at Berea.
Sure. I was actually a public school teacher for 8 years. That's what God led me into. I was a school teacher, but I really enjoyed coaching. Basketball is my heart's desire there. And I began doing that. And God prompted me to start an FCA at the school that I was coaching and teaching at. And that was great. But we were also leading as a volunteer youth groups at the church that Kriss and I grew up in. And that lasted about 10 years. Between churches, our church camp and youth group, God just really put a weight on both my wife and I's heart that, hey, you got to decide here. You can't keep playing both sides of the fence. Commit already, So we felt that as an official call into full-time ministry, and one thing led to another, and I ended up in full-time youth ministry for 12 years. During that 12 years, I did complete a graduate degree under your tutelage, partly, through Cincinnati, and about 4 years prior to my coming here, I began God feeling that push. God, okay, I understand. Just open the door. And I don't think I've ever told you this story, so I need to share this with you. This is important. It came time for me to make that move, and somebody said, "Hey, you really need to call this particular church." And I've told people the moral dilemma was kind of like, this is no offense to you, it's kind of like grandpa. If grandpa tells you to do something, you have two options. You can do it, or you can lie to him and tell him that you did it. I realized I could never lie to you and tell you that I called Tom. And so I had to actually call Tom. And one thing led to another. And I tell people I'm a people person. I'm a relationship person. And so I'm never going to send out blind applications to churches all over the country. I sent out one application, one resume to one church after I had met with the elders and leadership. And here I am 3 years.
Praise be to God. Absolutely. And what really I so enjoy about your story and your testimony is how you were already well into a career of public school education. You were teaching young people, and you knew God had an off-ramp for you and an on-ramp into vocational ministry. And you and Kriss, you stepped out in faith and answered his call on your life. So thank you for doing that. And it may be that somebody is listening to or watching this podcast, and that same stirring of Jesus is going on in that individual's life. So thanks for the example. Now, so E2, in 2021, we have these podcasts, and we're looking at the 6 challenges that elders face, ELDERS, real easy way to remember them. E, evangelism, L, leadership, D, discipleship, E, the equipping of elders, R, the recruiting of more elders, and S, the internal structure of the church. Today, we're going to look at E, the equipping of elders. But what's unique about your story is that we're not talking about the equipping of elders in Berea Christian Church. Certainly that's being done. but going beyond Berea Christian Church and the equipping of elders elsewhere. And our partnership goes back more than 5 years. And so we've known one another, and you just hit the nail on the head. You are relational. And so our partnership with Berea has morphed in a unique way. You want to share a little bit about that, please?
Yeah. Missions has always been a part of this church. Has been around since 1892, and missions has always been a huge part of this church. We behind me, the new missions wall we've created has all the missions that we support all over this country and beyond. And one of the things that we do differently here with E2 is we don't view them as an organization and things like that. We completely view them as a mission. Your stated mission for your organization is actually the E in your acronym that you're putting together here, the equipping elders to lead. It's so simple, what they're trying to do, the equipping of elders. But the reality is most churches don't do that. I've come from a church background, and I haven't been in many churches, but neither of the churches that I've been in prior to this had any kind of program to educate, to train, to equip, to select, to improve the eldership and the leadership of the church. And so the reality is this. This is a missionary organization to us in this way. No, you're not taking the gospel to unreached parts of the globe and reaching people for the gospel. You're on that next phase. You're on after Paul's planted the church, now Paul is going back and checking on the leaders of the church. How are things? How are things going? What can we do? How can we help you? How can we encourage you? And that is so important. And as part of your motivation in starting this organization was, no one's doing this. There's a huge need for this. And our leadership team, our missionary team absolutely sees this as a mission we can support, equipping, bettering churches across the planet. Awesome. Cause of Christ. So,
well, and because Berea sees E2 as a mission, and I can see on that wall over your right shoulder a lime green display, and I would assume that is E2.
Yes, sir.
Our lime green color palette is pretty noticeable. You know, I just want to mention to you, I received a text not even 24 hours ago from Carl Halverson. Carl is the new CEO at LATM in Joplin, Missouri. That stands for Literature and Teaching Material. They're a mission partner of E2. All they do is translate books into other languages. Yeah. He sent me a picture in less than 24 hours ago of our Healthy Elder book. It's now in Spanish. It just came off from the printing press, and they are now translating our first 4 books: Answer, Reflect, Lead, and Enjoy. They're all sequential. He said we're going to have all 4 of those in Spanish by next year. So there will be 5 books in Spanish in quick order. And that's a part of E2 doing mission. And we couldn't do that if Berea and other churches like Berea were not behind us in terms of mission. So we're very grateful. We now have books in 6 foreign languages. Can you tell us what steps did Berea take to adopt, to onboard E2 as a mission? Because we went from being a leadership organizational partner with you to one of your missions that you support. How did that happen?
It was a pretty natural transition. I think back when they originally partnered with you, it was through the Rechurch conferences, and that's how they heard about it and things like that. And they saw the value in accepting your help, if you will, for them, but then turned it around and said, hey, let's not pay them like a service. Let's actually support them as a mission. And that's it would be very easy for a church to find you guys and you come in and help through a crisis or help develop, and then them send you on their way. But I think from our perspective, man, that would be a disservice to what you do, because yes, you provided us a service, but what you're doing and trying to expand that service to so many churches that know nothing about you, that aren't a part of even our denomination, if you will, our grouping of independent Christian churches, just such value. And then here recently, in the last year, we've taken it another step. We've done this with all of our missionaries, and you've been a benefactor of that. We actually had people within our congregation adopt all of the missions we support. And so every one of our missionaries gets contacted by someone from our church, constant communication with them, prayers, praises, good things happening, needs they have. We can develop relationships with all of them.
Yeah.
So it's been great.
Yeah, that and that's true. I want you to know I have gotten emails from our link person there at Berea asking, hey, how can we continue to pray for you specifically? And so that internal structure that you've created is working. Just want you to be encouraged by that. Yeah. What do you think could be E2's role within the whole church beyond working with elders?
Yeah. Oh, I love this idea because it kind of came to me after you'd contacted me about meeting. That's this. Way too many churches have a leadership team that resembles a 1950s corporate boardroom, or they use wonderful Robert's Rules of Orders, which I didn't realize until I looked it up. 1876 when those came out. Just so you know, nothing's changed since then, but 1876.
They're certainly current and relevant.
Very relevant. Well, they updated it in 2020, but that's a whole other story. Or we rely on the balance of power, that our wonderful government has set up for us between things. And then there's another option that I've come across due to our staffing. There's a lot of churches out there that have no structure at all. A church plant, for example, depending on how they were created, a lot of times it's just the founding pastor and maybe a couple other people, but there's no leadership structure in place. And I see an opportunity for E2 to equip a church, not just training the elders, but teach a church, hey, this is what polity, the fancy word for it, the church governance should. The problem with the word governance is it's way too close to government, and we don't want to use that word in the church because everyone's kind of put off with government. But just training people, helping them understand this is how it was set up in the early church. This is what people were looking for, and whether E2 does that by teaching the elders within that church to share that information or some other means, I don't know. But what an awesome opportunity to educate, and a whole nother market out there of church plants that don't have a church structure. No, they aren't an independent Christian church or Church of Christ, maybe, but they have the right idea. They've got the gospel at the heart. They need some structure behind it. And an organization like this could really help. Your resources would be so helpful from the policies and procedures to the bylaws to things like that, the things you accumulated for people to help them establish that just would be incredible for people to.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we wrap up our conversation, can you share a word or two with our listeners as to some practical ways that Berea has been benefited by this partnership?
Absolutely. I won't say they benefited by me being here because that's not the case. But it was E2 that helped to put that all together. So that was a good thing. I was very fortunate when I came on board. God prepared this place perfectly for me because he had already started the relationship with you guys. A relationship that I learned about, an organization I learned about while in grad school because you were starting it. And so I already had a heart for it moving forward. So it was a natural bond between the two. Since I've arrived, you've helped us do some incredible things. We completely restructured our entire leadership structure. We got rid of the old bylaws from probably the 50s, 60s at best, replaced those with more modern bylaws with an elder governance actual model as a part of that. Because of the coaching through that process and the ways in which we kept the congregation informed, we were met with absolutely zero resistance to that. There wasn't a single no vote for the new bylaws or anything like that. The policies and procedures, we've used it for job descriptions. We've used it for interview purposes. We've used it for ordination purposes with our new worship pastors. So those have been tremendous resources. I personally, when I arrived here, I used your first 4 books, the series for the elders. And as elders, we sat down and went through those 4 books, read them together. In onboarding our new worship pastor, he and I are now going through those.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Together. And I will continue to use that resource to bring on people into
Awesome.
Those are just a few ways.
Yeah, that's great. How could you encourage somebody listening to the segue that Berea made from partnering as a leadership coach to being a mission that you support. What final word would you give to those churches to consider onboarding E2 in their mission budget?
If you are considering it, call Gary or one of the folks there on staff and just ask. Tell us, how are you reaching out? Tell them, how many other churches have you talked to? They'll give you the financials. Ask them. How many of those churches aren't really giving you much back in resources, aren't able to pay for those services? How many people are you consulting out there? And that will open their eyes to the impact that they could make.
Yeah, I'm writing today, as a matter of fact, our 90-day accountability report that I'm going to be sending out to all of our partner churches before the end of the week. And we're grateful for every partner church. We have 52 of them now. Our goal was 50 by the end of 2021. And God, in his great favor, has given us 52, and we still have a whole calendar quarter to go. And it would not be for these relationships that we have with Berea and others like Berea. And what makes us so appreciative of Berea is that you have seen the value of our mission to go beyond the doors of your church and to not only go across the country, but around the globe, equipping elders globally. So Kriss, just want to thank you very much.
Anytime.
I wish we could clone you, and I'm sincere when I say that. We have a whole new initiative coming out called E2 Teams, and it's where we have, because of a partnership with Christian Church Pension Plan, we've created, in essence, an abbreviated college seminary class, Elder Leadership 101, and it's the DNA of E2, and we're going to work through healthy partner churches like you, Berea, to spread that DNA farther, because that's one of the ways that we can scale that. And my encouragement is, because of your real love for world missions at Berea, that you think about the mission relationships that you have globally, and who is it that you could take under wing, and you take those resources, they're going to be free to you, and you spread that far beyond your sphere of influence. So we're so grateful.
Even within the pastor world, other pastors.
Yeah, absolutely. Right there in your area of influence. Yep. All right, buddy. Well, thank you so very much. Again, it's always good to connect with you. It was good to see you, your wife, your new worship minister here at our fall retreat. It was a real blessing. So,
awesome.
All right, great. Well, blessings. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, sir.